Well, I met him in England, and he came back with me from England after I finished my fourth year at Boston University, and um, they drafted him. They classified him 1A after a year in the United States. So they actually didn't get around to drafting him before we got out, but they gave him a draft card that said he was 1A, which was the most eligible for service after 1 year. And what had happened was that we didn't realize it was happening at the time. We found out after we came here that non-citizens don't have to serve abroad. They can be drafted, but they have the right to just serve within the United States. But when he came over on the ship from England, they made him sign a paper waiving that right so that he could be drafted and sent abroad. And we weren't going to wait for them to come and get him, so we just decided to come to Canada. The Americans didn't, as I said, my father's history teacher, he sort of got what was going on. So he didn't object, but he didn't, but they weren't terribly helpful either or supportive. Um, we were sort of on our own. We were very much on our own. Not, we both of us far away from our families and newly married and right out of college. I mean, I wouldn't even have married the guy, I don't think, if we hadn't had to make this decision. Like he had to leave. Was I going to go with him? Where were we going to go? I mean, I was very young to get married. I had no intention of getting married that fast, actually. Um, we were living together, but there was certainly no hurry to get married. And but we did so that we could immigrate and decide to move on together. People in Canada have varied reactions. Most people were objected to the war at the time and were very anti-American. I used to try to hide the fact that I was American most of the time because I didn't want people to know. And you Americans this and you Americans that. You think you have the right to take over the world, and as if we're all 300 million of us all the same. Um, but so I would just not, especially if you're a female and an assertive female, of course, you're a pushy American broad. So you just you just didn't, I didn't tell them for the most part. Those who knew were very supportive. They were against the Vietnam War. The government was officially against the war, and Pierre Trudeau said that at that time that Canada should be a refuge from militarism, and he supported letting these draft dodgers in the country. So that was the official policy of the government. Some people of more conservative background, I guess, might have objected. We also lived among a bunch of new immigrants for whom English was a second language, and I think they were just struggling to get on with their own lives as immigrants. Didn't really have much feeling about it one way or the other. But most people were against the war and supportive of us, but they could still be very dismissive of Americans too. That Canadians have always had a love-hate relationship with the United States, so but they're particularly against the war and thought it was imperialistic the way we did. I don't remember all the details. I just remember that he promised that they wouldn't be prosecuted if they came home, because before then they could be tried and jailed, um, which happened to a lot of them who went home before that, if they went home. Like that one case I mentioned to you of a guy who went home and his father was killed in a car accident, and he was arrested on the spot and tried and jailed. I remember writing letter of support. He needed letters of support from friends. I wrote a letter of support for him. And in fact, I looked him up the other day, and he's back in Canada. So he must have decided he wanted to come back here.